I've been a Fidelity financial advisor now for well over 20 years. And one of the things I learned early in my journey is when you have bad news to share it directly. And for goodness sakes, share it at the beginning of the meeting, not at the end. So let's jump right in. I'm going to treat you just like I would one of my clients. Fidelity every year puts out a report that's called How to Plan for Rising Healthcare Costs. And in there, they go through and estimate what it's going to cost the average person once they reach 65 during the rest of their lifetime. What is that going to cost? And for most of these people, they're going to be on Medicare, and their study only looked at people that were on Medicare. So for above and beyond, what's it going to cost? And I'm showing the report here. I'll read one of the quotes from the report. Many people assume that Medicare will cover all of your healthcare costs and retirements, but it doesn't. So you should carefully weigh all of your options. So that's what we're going to do in today's video. I'm going to share this information with you, and then I'm going to share with you what options most of us have and how, as a financial advisor, I think about these when I'm talking to my clients. So be sure to stay to the end, because the end is the most important part. Given these facts, what should you do? Okay. So here's what the report says. A single person age 65 in 2023 may need approximately $157,500 saved in after-tax dollars. So if you're in a 401k, that means you're 20% more, because all of that money is going to be taxed as you pull it out. So it's in after-tax dollars per person, $157,500. to cover healthcare expenses in retirement that are not covered by Medicare. An average retired couple, age 65 in 2023, may need approximately $315,000 in after-tax dollars. The report goes on to say healthcare is creating a retirement cost gap for many pre-retirees, and that's by Stephen Schreiber, who's a senior vice president of Financial Solutions Group at Fidelity. Okay, so that's a lot of money, and it's probably a lot of money that many of us weren't planning on, right? A lot of people think, all I got to do is get to 65, and once I get there, Medicare's got me covered. Well, it's certainly better than no safety net, and I'm certainly grateful that we have Medicare, and we pay into it, right? It's insurance that we're paying into to provide for us in retirement, but there's a lot that it doesn't cover. So let's first talk about if you're retiring early. Let's say you're 60 or 62, and you say, you know what, I just don't want to keep working if the only reason I'm working is for healthcare insurance. That doesn't seem like a good trade-off of my healthiest, most active years. So what are your alternatives? And here I put up a table. Again, this table comes from that Fidelity report. And Fidelity would say we basically have 4 options. And I want to point out something. Unfortunately, I shouldn't laugh because it's not funny. None of these options, are low cost. I shouldn't say none of them. The spouse's health plan does have a single dollar bill, which might mean that it's affordable. But many companies' healthcare plans, we still have to come out of pocket a lot. They may cover the employee, but it can be expensive sometimes not, to add a spouse and to add family members. So the first one is COBRA, and that means that you can extend your current health care insurance if your company is at a certain size, which is pretty low, the number of employees. If your company is at that size, by law, you have the right to continue your coverage with COBRA, and that's for 18 months after employment, after you end employment. Pro tip, never leave your job on the last day of the month, because let's say you leave on the last day of January. Well, that means February is month 1 of your COBRA coverage, right? But where if you leave February 5th, then you've got that month. The company is providing that month for you, because healthcare insurance is sold by the month. You want to be double check your employer's plan. There might be some differences between companies, but in general, that is true. Okay, COBRA tends to be expensive. The next thing Fidelity says that you can do is you can go on your spouse's healthcare plan, and as they say here, not all employers offer that. They don't have to by law offer healthcare insurance to family members. The next thing you can do is you can go on the public market, or you can do private insurance. And of course, there's the Affordable Care Act where you might qualify for some subsidies. Okay, so what else can you do, right? Many of my viewers are, 45 to 65, and we tend to skew before 65. I think like 20% of my audience is over 65. So if you're in that category and you're under 65, one of the strongest tools that I think as a financial advisor, actually Fidelity talks about this as well, so they would agree with this point. One of the best things that we can do, to the extent you're in a high deductible healthcare plan, you can do what's called a health savings account, an HSA, and that allows you to save money and put money in pre-tax dollars. It allows those dollars to grow tax-free. And then if you take the distributions out for qualified medical expenses, for which you can prove that they're qualified medical expenses, and all that means is keep the receipt for a long time, like for life. But you can then spend that money tax-free, so you can get the distribution out. So it's what we financial advisors would call triple tax advantage, what I would call the trifecta. It's really a wonderful plan. If you have a family plan with a high deductible healthcare plan, I'm not going to go through a lot of details. I did a video on health savings accounts that you can watch there, but you can put a little over $8,000 a year in there. If you have a family plan, you can put a little over $4,000 a year. Companies like Fidelity, custodians like Fidelity, offer health HSA account, health savings accounts. So you can go with a traditional broker. It can be, if you choose wisely, fairly low cost vehicle. And again, you don't have to spend that money. So let's say you have 20 years until retirement. Well, you can be putting in a little over $8,000 a year, and it's indexed for inflation, so that's going to increase every year. So over 20 years, even at just $8,000 a year, you're going to have $160,000 in there. And if that doubles over time, now you've got $320,000 in that account, which matches up pretty nicely. I didn't choose these numbers, but it worked out well. I didn't choose them ahead of time, I should say. Worked out well with the report of a couple needing $315,000. Now, I do want to point out, normally you cannot use a health savings account to pay for your healthcare insurance premiums, but you can use it. You can use an HSA to cover COBRA premiums while you're unemployed. So that's a nice thing there. Okay, so let's look into where is this $315,000 a year being spent. You can see your prescription drugs, your generic drugs, your specialty drugs is about 20%, 17%. Medicare Part B and Part D is about 40% of it, and the rest is for other medical expenses. Just a quick reminder on Medicare. Your Medicare Part A covers hospitalization. Your Medicare Part B is really your doctor's visits. And your Medicare Part D, D as in Delta, is for your prescription drugs, for your drug costs. Okay, so that's the news. But here's the shocker: that $315,000 estimate does not include long-term care. I know, and unfortunately, almost 80% of us that reach the age of 65 at some point in our life are going to need long-term care. And let's look at these numbers. You can see they're quite staggering, right? Nursing home with a private room is over $100,000 a year. The semi-private room doesn't go down by much. It's about $95,000. If you have an aide come and take care of you at home, that's a little over $60,000. Homemaker services, somebody that comes in but is not a health aide, that's about $60,000 a year according to Fidelity's report. This is the Statistica report you can see in the lower right-hand corner of this chart. Assisted living is about a little under $55,000, and then adult day health care is about $20,000. So these are big numbers. They're things that you want to plan on. I don't want to leave this on a negative note, so I want to encourage you to watch that video I talked about earlier about health savings accounts and why they're so important. I'll see you in there. Bye-bye.